All right. Let's start off by saying Barak Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, bahasham Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Revelation chapter 6. This is a breakdown we went through many times. Recently, Elder Pastor did a lesson or pretty much a test for the brothers in the New York camp, after camp. And brothers went through the whole breakdown, which took about 45 minutes or so, to read the one precept and go get other precepts to back that precept up, and then, but nevertheless, I wanted to kind of go over it, give the sense of it. Lord's will, it'll be edifying and we could get through it and break it down completely. But like I said, if you type in, GMS and Revelation, it should come up with different sites where these chapters are broken down in certain channels, certain YouTube channels. You have different brothers, you have the apostles breaking it down. You have different brothers, different elders, and different brothers from different camps hitting certain points on it. So Lord's will, like I said, it'll be edifying. So let's get started. This is Revelation chapter 6, verse 1. It says, "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, the Lamb being Yahawashi." The seals are mysteries of the scriptures that are being blocked, by the Spirit until Yahawashi, when we read the previous chapter, the 5th chapter, where Yahawashi actually opened up the seals of the book, which was sealed with 7 seals. The number 7 represents completion, and the sealed part means that it was completely sealed, like the mysteries and everything of the scriptures. There was no way possible, no man, could get to the mysteries. There was no man that was worthy to open up the mysteries till Yahawashi did the great sacrifice that he did and opened up the mysteries of the scriptures. That's why, excuse me, that's why today we're able to break these things down. Yeah, that's right. As this brother here, Steve Hawkins, said, know in part, prophesy in part. But now the things that we have today are actually, we have 100% truth of the scriptures. Now there's certain things like this, the 7 thunders that uttered, and certain things that we don't know about because it's not mentioned, because whatever was given to us here, that we know, 100%. Let's get real quick before we get started. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29 and verse 29. It says, "The secret things belong unto the Lord, Yahweh our power. But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law." So the things that are revealed are given to us, and it's no coincidence that we're reading the book of Revelation, which we broke this down. Re is back. Velation is where you get the word veil, which is a veil or a covering. So a revelation is a taking off of the covering. Same thing with the apocalypse. APO, to send away, and calypse, which is the veil or the covering. So let's get into it. Let's read it again. I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, and one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. Now, horse represents purity. White represents purity. Horse represents power. All right, so this white horse was the actual chariot where Yahawashi was on. And this is symbolizes Yahawashi. It doesn't symbolize anybody else. It doesn't symbolize any empire. It doesn't symbolize any military as far as the earth is concerned. This is a direct link to the Lord Yahawashi. So we're going to read it in its entirety and then hit some precepts and come back. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow. Now, what is a bow? A bow is where you shoot arrows from, like a bow and arrow. All right. It says, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So now let's get into this real quick. Now we're going to go to the book of Psalms, the 45th chapter. We're going to read from the first verse. The point is in the 4th and the 5th verse. And there's something to note here. So let's go to Psalms 45 and 1. It says, my heart is inditing a good matter. I speak on the things which I have touching the king. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. It says, thou art fairer than the children of men, which this is dealing with Yahawashi. You know, this is what is being written here. It's being written up about Yahawashi. Grace is poured into thy lips. You could read about this in the book of Isaiah. You know, he's taught of the Lord. He's a quick understanding. You know, he's put on righteousness as a breastplate. This is dealing with Yahawashi. And the grace poured into thy lips, because grace is what he gave us, which was that liberty, that if we went off, the Lord was there to cover our sins, our iniquities. Therefore, the Most High hath blessed thee forever. So he's been blessed forever, because from the beginning he was blessed. Then when he came as a self 2,000 years ago, he gave that ultimate sacrifice, and pretty much he is sitting on the right hand side of the Most High, lawyering for us. It says gird thy sword upon thy thigh. And this brings to mind what? Revelation, the 19th chapter, which we're going to get that next. Keep that in mind. Gird thy sword upon thy thigh, O most mighty, because Yahawashi is mighty. He said he's coming back. You will not meet these devils as a man. With thy glory and thy majesty, because he's coming back to what? To get his kingdom, which is the glory, and his majesty, which is also the glory. His kingly, be able to sit on the throne as a king, because we read it in the scriptures, but we haven't seen it physically on the earth yet. And every knee is not bound to Yahawashi. Yahawashi said, or through the mouth of the Apostle Paul and through the mouth of Isaiah, that every knee shall bow at the name of the Lord, Yahweh, bahasham, Yahawashi. And this is what we're waiting for. This is what we're waiting for Yahawah to usher in, is the kingdom of Yahawashi. You know? It says, and in thy majesty ride prosperously. What is the Lord's majesty? The chariots, that great majesty, that great power that he's coming in. And in thy majesty ride prosperously because of truth. Yeah, because he is the truth. You know, you could read about that in the book of John, St. John. It says, and meekness and righteousness. So this is speaking about directly about Yahawashi. And thy right hand shall teach thee terrible things. All right, which righteousness, or the right hand, is a representation of righteousness. That's why it says in Ecclesiastes that a righteous man is at his right hand, and the wicked is on the left. Merely paraphrasing. It says, and meekness and righteousness, and thy right hand shall teach thee terrible things. Thine arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies, whereby the people fall under thee. Now, when you go to the Hebrew on this in Psalms 45 and 5, it is speaking about arrows. But when you go to the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures, which, you know, the Septuagint goes off. Sometimes they have certain points in there, you know, we use here and there just to make a point. But for the most part, you know, they go off on a lot of stuff. But the point I want to get is Psalms 45 and 4. It says, and bend thy what? Thy bow. So here it says bow. When you go to the actual Greek writing, the word there is bow. But when you go to the Hebrew, the word is arrow. But a bow and an arrow are synonymous one with the other, because they're both useless without one another. So in order, if you have arrows but you don't have a bow, then they're useless. If you have a bow and you have arrows, then they're useless. You can hit somebody with the bow, you could kind of stab somebody with the arrow, but the combination is the bow and arrow. All right. It says, and bend thy bow and prosper and reign because of truth and meekness and righteousness. And thy right hand shall guide thee wonderfully. Thy weapons are sharpened, mighty one. The nations shall fall under thee. They are in the heart of the king's enemies, because the Most High gave Yahawashi the kingdom. Let's go real quick to 1 Corinthians 15. And this is the very last thing that's going to happen after the prophecies are fulfilled on this side. When Yahawashi comes back and gets the kingdom and sits back up on his throne. 1 Corinthians 15 and 24. It says, then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to the Most High, which is Yahawashi delivering the kingdom, which are the Israelites, to the Lord, the elect in this time. Even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power, for he must reign till he hath put all his enemies under his feet. So pretty much, this is what is about to happen once they implement this mark of the beast and this World War III pops off. Everything will start. It'll go back to righteousness after that. Yahawashi being set up on his throne. So this is what we're waiting for. This is the end of the end. All right, we're in the end times, and we're witnessing end time prophecies. But the very end of it all is when Yahawashi is set back up on his throne after he destroys his enemies. All right, so we read that. So let's go back to. I'm sorry, before we go back to Revelation, the 6th chapter, let's go real quick to Revelation 19 and verse 11. It says, the coming of Yahawashi. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. See, so this is the same thing that we're reading about in the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter, but here it uses the white horse also. All right. It says, and he that sat upon him was called faithful and true, which we read in the book of Revelation. I'm sorry, in the book of Psalms 45, we just read that. And in righteousness, he doth judge and make war. So what does it say in Revelation? And a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Okay, because that is the mission that the Most High gave him to do when he comes back. It says his eyes were as a flame of fire. We could read about this also in the book of Revelation, the 1st chapter, and I believe also Revelation 2. And on his head were many crowns. Why were there many crowns on his head? Because he conquered all these different nations. All right, we just read that about him conquering. And in the Psalms 45 and 5, thy weapons are sharp and mighty one. The nation shall fall under thee. They are in the heart of the king's enemies. All right, so it goes on to say, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. Now let's put the case that this is actually saying that Yahawashi has another name that he doesn't know about, but what name was given to us whereby we must be saved? The name Yahawashi. All right, just to kill the argument that certain individuals bring up. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. We can go to the book of Isaiah 63 to back this up. And the people that he's coming to visit, to destroy, one of the main ones he's coming to conquer are the Edomites, which are in power right now. And his name is called the Word of the Most High. See? Because he is the Word. It says, and the armies which were in heaven, which are the angels, followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth what? A sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. We just read about this in Psalm 45. We read about this in Revelation 6. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the almighty power. Because he's coming to bring the Most High's vengeance upon the earth. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh, remember we just read that in Psalms 45, a name written, what? King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So why is he called the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Because when he comes back, he's coming back to subdue all of these different nations, and their empires, their generals, their kings, their leaders, their nobles, so on and so forth. Now let's go to one more, Revelation 14 and 14. Just bear with me 1 second because this thing is starting to act up now. I tell you. Let's try another window. Get rid of this. Let's open up that. Revelation 14 and 14. The reapers. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud. So you had white horse, right? Now we're dealing with a white cloud, which is a chariot. Same thing. And upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man. Who's the Son of Man? Yahawashi. Having on his head a golden crown. Why? Because he is the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. He's coming to conquer. He's coming to be set back up in power. And in his hand, what? A sharp sickle. What is a sickle used for? A sickle is used for reaping the harvest. When the harvest is at its end, you use the sickle to reap down the crops. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, which is Yahawashi, sitting on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So that's why we read, and I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. All right, now we will go to verse 3. It says, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was what? That was red. So let's read this in its entirety, and then we'll go back and hit some points. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a sword. So the first clue here is what? Red. So now who does this represent? This represents the Edomites and their military power. Is red. Who's red? Esau's red. Let's go real quick to Genesis 25, and we're going to get the other one. Genesis 25 and 30. Genesis 25:30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. So what does the name Edom mean? It goes back to the Hebrew word Adawam, which means red. So Esau, they are the red people of the earth. Looking the way that they look is not pleasant. It's not clean. They're leprous. All right. So now let's go to Isaiah 34 and 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, which Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom, Edomite, or Adawam. And upon the people of my curse to judgment. So these devils have been cursed. Those are the Edomites that have been cursed. These are the people upon whom the Lord hath indignation forever. These are the people that are in rulership right now. And these are the people that will be in rulership when Yahawashi returns to take them and knock them off of their high horse, so to speak. All right. So now let's go back. And there went out another horse that was red, which is Esau. And power was given to him that sat there unto what? To take peace from the earth. Now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Habakkuk. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's read on. It says, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him what? A great sword. So let's deal with this great sword. Let's deal with taking peace from the earth and killing one another. Let's go from there to the book of Genesis. Let's go first to Genesis 27 and 38. And it says, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? This is Esau asking Isaac for a blessing, because this is right after Yahweh supplanted him for his birth. I'm sorry, not for his birthright. He already had supplanted for his birthright. This is after Yahweh or Jacob supplanted him for his blessing. It says, bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. And we see that they have the best of everything. When you read the book of Psalm 73, just to further back this up, it says that they have more than heart could wish. See? So they have control of the whole planet Earth. Who are the international banking families that own all these different corporations and all the different resources of the world? They're Edomites, so-called white people. It says, and what? And by thy sword. So who is it speaking about? It's speaking about Esau, which is Edom, which is red. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Now this part here was dealing with during the time of the kings of Yahawah or Judah. And there was a particular king, I forget the king's name, where Esau and the Edomites broke away from them. So this part already happened. But the part before that, where it speaks about, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and you're going to have the dwelling of the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above, but you're going to live by your sword. So all of these things that you're going to get of this blessing is going to be gotten by this sword. So what in essence did they do? Not only did they take away peace from the earth, but they also took away the resources, the lands, everything from all the different nations, especially the nation of Israel. And when you go back, Esau is nothing but a thief. You know, they're nothing but a thief. They're fugitive from justice. They're a thief. They're vagabonds. So now let's go from there to the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and verse 5 and 6. It says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. What is transgress? To transgress, breaking of the law. By wine is what? His philosophies. And how is he doing that? He's pushing his ideology, his philosophies, his religion upon all nations of the planet Earth. His way of life, his way of thinking, you know, his way of doing business. It says he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. So they don't keep at home because they're constantly on the move. They're all over the planet. You know, it says who enlarges his desire as hell. So how did they enlarge their desire as hell? Well, look at the world today and how they got it and how they took it. You know, in some places, in certain instances, it was evident, like in when he took the land from Gad and all the other tribes over on this side of the world, from Canada all the way down to South America and everything in between. But then these other nations, they've taken the resources from these other nations underhandedly, indirectly. You know? So it says, who enlarges his desire is hell, and is as death, and can never be satisfied. Because death is never satisfied. Death is constant. You know, people die every day. When Yahawashi comes back, this is going to be one of the last enemy that he's going to conquer is death. You see? The grave is never full. Because there's somebody always dying to fill it. It says, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. So this is what's happening. He's so greedy, he's grabbing everything and everybody. And this is why now everything that he's doing is going what? Online. Because he's about to make his move to fully implement his agenda of the so-called New World Order. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, meaning all these nations, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him, which means destruction to him, that increaseth that which is not his, how long? See, so how long you going to increase this which is not yours? Well, not long, because when you read further down, it tells you how woe to them that build the city by iniquity and by blood. And to him that ladeth himself with the thick clay, which means heavy debt. And this is what happened to the ancient Roman Empire. And this is what's happening to America. All right. So now going back to Revelation 6. Let's read this again. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. So pretty much this great sword, or this red horse, is Esau. The sword is the actual sword that was given to him back then. But the extension of the sword today would be guns and machine guns and, any type of automatic weapon, tanks, these missiles, which is the ultimate sword. The missiles. Whether they're whatever type of missile they are, especially the nuclear missile. All right, so now let's read on. And when he had opened the sixth seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. Now this black horse, well, let's read the whole thing and then we'll go into it. It said, And lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Now the black horse with the balances in his hand is a representation of judgment, but it is also a representation of slavery. When Jake was here, Judah was here, or Yahawah was here in captivity. So let's hit that point first. When you go to the book, and Elder Apostle went over this years ago, when you go here, the word there is zugos, where you get the word yugo or yoke. Right here, see? From the root of zognumi, to join, especially by a yoke. So this is a representation of slavery, but it's also a representation of judgment. And we're going to get that dealing with the balances. It says a yoke that is put on a drought, cattle, metaphorically used of any burden or bondage, as that of slavery. See? So this was a representation of slavery, judgment, which is hard times, of troublesome laws imposed on one, which is what? Draconian laws, which you could link this up with Revelation, the 13th chapter, where he spoke as a dragon, especially of the Mosaic law. Hence the name is so transferred to the commands of Yahawashi as to contrast them with the commands of the Pharisees, which were a veritable yoke. Yet even Yahawashi's command must be submitted to, though easier to be kept. A balanced pair of scales. See? So this balance, it could be, it was slavery, but it's also a representation of judgment, because a balance or pair of scales is just that, judgment. So let's go back. All right. So let's go from there. Let's read this again. And when he had opened the seal, I heard the third beast come and see, and beast say, Salakia, Come and see, and I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And the balances is a representation of slavery first and foremost, and also the judgments that were taking place on the earth. All right. It says, And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So this measure of wheat for a penny and the measure of barley for a penny, there's a point where things are going to seem like they're prosperous, but even at that very moment, society is going to collapse. Let's go real quick to the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 16. And let's see, verse 17. 2nd Ezra 16 and 17 on down. So it says, Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? Because Ezra's being a prophet, he actually saw the devastation that was taking place, because the Lord showed it to him. So he was saying, who's going to deliver me in those days? All right. And this is how the prophets were. Prophets were humble. They were doing the bidding of the Lord. They were men of the Lord. They were showing great mysteries, but they were still humble, because they were hoping that the Lord would deliver them. Now, somebody else reading this will call him a coward, and have a problem with that, because he's hoping for the mercies of the Lord Yahweh bahasham Yahawashi. You go and figure. the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. So this is the judgment, or the part about the balances, the other side of the balances, which first part was slavery, second part are the hardships, the judgments that are coming. The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear. Why? Because it's gonna get out of pocket, it's gonna get out of hand. There's gonna be something that they're not gonna be able to control. It says, the beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? The elect are gonna be straight. Ezra is gonna be straight. Because he's a prophet. And he's back here today. Who he is, we don't know. But we'll find out when the time comes. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. See, so these, when you see these things happening, this is for the amendment of who? For the amendment of Jake. Now, if these nations catch themselves, which they're not, and do something right, then the Lord would back off. But the Lord got them programmed to do the wrong thing because he's going to judge them. All right. It says, but for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness. See, so even though they see things happening, they're not going to turn from their wickedness. How do we know this? Well, just look at all the different examples. The earthquake, I believe that earthquake in Haiti was what, 2005, if I'm not mistaken. What happened? They've rebuilt since, and they're right back to the same shit they were doing before that. New Orleans, when the levees broke, they were all, messed up for a while. What happened? They went right back to that same old bullshit. And so many other examples. You had the Twin Towers going down. People was shook for a while, but what happened? They went right back to this. So they didn't give heed. It says, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Yeah, because they don't always think about these things, especially when they're prospering. The scriptures speak about that in the day of when one prospers, they forget about affliction. Same thing when in the day of affliction, you forget about prosperity. It says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth. And this is the point that we're going to get dealing with the part where it says, a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. So it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. It says, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And this is what's coming to America, to the world. It's not just America, it's the world. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of what? Of famine. And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. You see? And the dead shall cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. And this is what we're heading into right now. Those turbulent times of judgment. All right, now let's go to the previous chapter. 2 Ezra 15:7. Therefore saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, because it's time for judgment. What happened during the time of the flood? Just before the flood, it said the wickedness of man was great. And the Lord said, look, it's about time for me to take these devils out, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually, which this goes. I'm sorry, I read the wrong verses. That's for the verse a little later on. So I kind of jumped the gun, but let's go same chapter. I'm sorry. The 12th verse. 2 Ezra 15:12. My bad. Egypt shall mourn. Egypt is another name for America. Salaki for a second. Salaki for that. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So Egypt is a modern day America, and everything's going to be shook when the Most High starts bringing judgments and punishments and plagues upon them. They that till the ground shall mourn. See, victual shall be so good cheap upon earth, for their seeds shall fail. They're through the blasting and hail and with a fearful constellation, because even the ones that put these farmers' almanacs together, which can read the skies and know what type of crop they're going to have, even they're shook and going to be shook because of the things that are coming, you know. So that handles that, and it says, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine, which the oil and the wine is a representation of the truth. Why? Because the truth is not going to be distorted, because it's going to enter into the souls of the elect of the nation of Israel, because this is the key to salvation. All right, so moving on, verse 7. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. It says, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Because it's, you know, it's not going to get easier. It's going to get worse and worse. You know, so this is going to usher in all of this turmoil that's going to be seen on the earth. The fourth part of the earth is a representation of Esau's earth. And you have what? You have 2/3 of Israel in America. You have the nations around the world. You have certain Israelites around the world that are conforming to Esau. They're all going to get caught up in the midst of this. All right. So let's go from there to the book of Jeremiah 15, just to give you an example of that. Now, this Jeremiah 15 is dealing with Israel specifically. But remember, scriptures that are dealing with Israel as far as some type of catastrophe or hardship is concerned is going to be put upon Esau. You can read Lamentations, the 4th chapter, around the 21st, 22nd verse, around there. And then you can read Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 7. So Jeremiah 15:1. Then said the Lord unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. And there's another scripture that speaks about Job, that if they had been there, it was three of them, that they had been there, they would not only but save their own souls. So even if Moses and Samuel stood before the Lord and pleaded for Jake today, certain Israelites, the Lord said his mind could not be towards them. It says, and it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Yeah, where are we going to go? Then thou shalt tell them, thus saith the Lord, such as are for death to death, and such as are for the sword to the sword, and such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity. And remember, you have certain amount of Israelites out there that are set up to be destroyed. And there's going to be different things that's going to take hold of them, depending on the judgment that the Most High is going to bring upon them. It says, and I will appoint over them 4 kinds, saith the Lord, the sword to slay, and the dogs to tear, and the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy. So it's going to be bad. You got to remember, yeah, you have a lot of major cities in America. We're dealing with America right now. Got a lot of major cities in America. So wild beasts usually are in forests. But then you have also, you know, other parts of America that are wilderness. And for the most part, the cities are going to be shut down. So what do you think most people are going to be running to? They're going to be running to these different desolate places in the forest, out in the woods, different places. And a lot of them are going to die of hunger. A lot of them are going to die by wild beasts. Wild beasts are going to tear it into their ass. You know? So there's many different scenarios that are going to be played out. All right? So that's what this pale horse is dealing with. You know, and ultimately it's going to bring the destruction. All right? Now, let's go from there back to the Apocrypha. Let's go to the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39. And I'll give you the verse in a minute. Verse 27. It says, all these things are for good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. So whatever judgment may be for the righteous is going to be righteous judgment. For the wicked is going to be wicked judgment. There be spirits that are what? Created for vengeance. The vengeance of who? The vengeance of the Most High, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. It says, in the time of destruction, they pour out their force. And what? And appease the wrath of him that made them, because it's the Lord that sent them. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening. You know, there could be apparitions. There could be Leviathan can come out of the water. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but the Lord knows. It says fire and hail and famine and death. All these were created for what? For vengeance, for the Most High's vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. And 2/3 of Israel and other Israelites around the world are part of that wicked ilk, so to speak, for lack of better words. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is. So when the Lord needs them, they're going to be right there ready. And when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word, because whatever the Lord set forth to happen and for them to do, they're going to do it. Therefore, from the beginning I was resolved and thought upon these things, and have left them in writing. All the works of the Lord are good, and he will give every needful thing in due season, so that a man cannot say, this is worse than that. For in time they shall all be approved. And therefore praise ye the Lord with the whole heart and mouth, and bless the name of the Lord Yahawah bahasham. Yeah, because he's the one that's in control of all of these things. Now let's go back to Revelation chapter 6 and 8. Let's read that again. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him, which death is death, and hell is the grave. You know, follow him, because it's gonna be bad, man. People joking and playing games. When it starts really getting hot out here, then they're gonna really want to take it serious. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, which is Esau's earth, to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. So there's going to be a lot of devastation going on, and ultimately the destruction. It says, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High and for the testimony which they held, which is dealing with the Israelites in the spirit world that were put to death. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? It says, and white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. And we just read the scripture a little while ago, which was 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verses 7 to 9, and you could read that again if you want to get a little better understanding. So now, because this is the spirits that's up in the heavens right now, crying to the Lord, that were in the truth and that died in the truth. Verse 12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Because in the midst of the sixth, towards the end of the sixth trumpet, into the beginning of the seventh, that's when the destruction comes. Remember, it says in Job, in 6 troubles he shall deliver thee, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. So at the very end of all of this is what? The nuclear destruction. So it's not going to get better. It's not going to get easier. It's just going to get progressively worse. It says, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth the untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And this is not talking about the actual stars up in the heavens. This is talking about, idols that these people have, people that are in that lofty position. Esau being in his lofty position. All right. And that mighty wind is what? The nuclear destruction. You can read about that in the book of Jeremiah, either 50:1 or 51:1. It says, and the heaven departed as a scroll, which is called the what? The mushroom cloud. And a link up for this will be in the book of Isaiah 34. When it is rolled together. So when you see what you call it, a scroll being rolled together, that's what a so-called mushroom cloud looks like. That's what they call it, a mushroom cloud. But when you look at it closely, it looks like a rolled up scroll, as you can see here. See how it looks like if you look at a scroll, you'll see it because it winds just like you wind up a scroll. You can see up here, even up here and down here. You know, the heavens were rolled together as a scroll. And look at this. This is a real good one here. You can see it there. All right. It says, and the heaven departed, which is Esau's heaven, his rulership, his state of being in that lofty position that they're in. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, which are what? The international banking families. You have, the other nations that have so-called nobles or high-ranking individuals, that are in bed with Esau. And the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. So you're gonna have certain underground bunkers, and you're gonna have some outside of America and in America. But if they're in America, any place in America where there's a mountain retreat or underground bunker or whatever the case is going to be destroyed, because there's not going to be any inhabitant here in America. Those bunkers and retreats are going to be their graves, whoever is up in them. And they're going to have, because they're going to have nobles there, senators and governors and, presidents and vice presidents. They're going to have generals and colonels, They're going to have regular military men, because they're going to want to, once after the destruction, they're going to want to rebuild. They're going to want to implement the continuity of government. You're going to have teachers and social workers and scientists, and astronauts, every aspect, rocket scientists, all of these different individuals. And they're also going to have mechanics, and they're also going to have servants, maids, butlers, and all of that, because they're thinking that they're going to be set and established back up into power and be business as usual. But that's not the case, because here in America, wherever these bunkers are at, they're going to be taken out by Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, and the missiles. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, which is their shelters, to hide them from the destruction, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, which is Yahawah, the Most High, and from the wrath of the Lamb, which is Yahawashi. And they know that this is coming. Trust and believe that if it's written, they know. They know what the deal is. Why do you think they built those bunkers in the first place? Because they know that the Lord's coming back. Why do you think they make all of these different movies like they do? Because they know the Lord is coming back. And they think, and they're fool enough to think that they could fight against the Lord, but they can't. Because the Lord's going to take them out. It says, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? The only ones that are going to be able to stand are the elect. And they're not going to be here dealing with America. They're not going to be on the soils of America. They're going to be up in the chariots, up in the heavens, in the outer atmosphere, witnessing the destruction and the devastation of this place. Matter of fact, let's close out with that. Let's go to Revelation. I believe that's the 15th chapter. 15:1. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of the Most High. It says, and I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire. So what is it speaking about? The sea of glass is dealing with the firmament, the ozone layer, because it's clear as crystal. It says mingled with fire. Why was it mingled with fire? Because from a bird's eye view, so to speak, you saw through the firmament or the ozone layer, and you saw America and certain other parts of the earth totally engulfed in fire, mainly all of America, the land of Israel, and wherever else the missiles hit. So it looked like a lake of fire. So this sea of glass looked like it was mingled with that lake of fire, but it was what they saw from that position that they were in, which was in the chariots. And them that had gotten the victory over the beast, because the Apostle John saw the elect being delivered from this devastation. He saw himself also, but he didn't know that was him. It says, and over his image, which is what? The image is the system, and everything in between, which is, their legislation, their the building structures, their coliseums, their gladiatorial game, all of that mimics ancient Rome. And over his mark, which is the charagma, which is the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, and all of that technology that goes with connecting humans to the internet of things. And over the number of his name, which is 666, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of the Most High, because the harps of the Most High represent this truth, which is a song. And stand on the sea of glass because they're going to be in the chariots up above the firmament, looking down, watching the devastation. And they excuse me. And they sing the song of Moses, because what was the song of Moses? Exodus the 15th chapter, when they were singing about the deliverance from the land of Egypt and the deliverance from Pharaoh and his army. It says they sing the song of Moses, the servant of the Most High, because there's going to be a lauding and a praising in the call halalyam, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, just a great cry for the deliverance that the Lord is going to give us in this time. Okay? And the song of the Lamb, which we're singing the song of the Lamb now, saying, great and marvelous are thy works, Lord power almighty, just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. So we're going to be singing. It's going to be music. We're going to be singing. In the Lord's will, we make it out of here. So it's going to be something, man. It's going to be something. Who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? See? That name keeps coming up. For thou only art holy, for all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are made manifest. All right? So that's pretty much it. I'll leave it there. The water to you brothers for putting up all those precepts. I didn't get to any of them. But I know and I trust that you brothers put good scriptures, because you brothers always do anyway. So with that, the water for tuning in. I pray that you brothers have been edified, sisters also. And to the next time, I say shalom.